What if I told you that nearly 40 to 50% of everything you do today, you didn't consciously decide? You didn't decide how you brushed your teeth this morning. You didn't consciously choose which shoe you put on first. You probably didn't even decide how you checked your phone. So here's the real question. Are you living your life, or are your habits living it for you? Why is it so easy to scroll for hours, but so hard to go to the gym? Why do bad habits feel automatic, but good habits feel like a battle? And what exactly is happening inside your brain when a behavior shifts from effort to autopilot? Tonight, we are going deep inside your brain. We are going to explore the science of how habits are formed, why they are so powerful, how dopamine rewires your behavior, what the world's top neuroscientists have discovered, and most importantly, how you can take back control. This is not motivation. This is neuroscience. Welcome to MindCraft Lab. Your brain loves to save energy. Your brain makes up about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes nearly 20% of your body's energy. That means your brain is extremely expensive to run. And because of that, your brain is obsessed with efficiency. William James, often called the father of American psychology, wrote in 1892 that all our life, so far as it has definite form, is but a mass of habits. He understood something powerful long before brain scans existed. Habits are the brain's way of saving energy. When you first learn something new, like driving a car, it feels overwhelming. You think about the mirrors, the steering wheel, the brake pressure, the signals, everything. Your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making center of your brain, is fully engaged. But after months of practice, something incredible happens. You start driving without thinking. You arrive home and barely remember the drive. That is not laziness. That is your brain transferring control from the conscious decision-making system to a deeper, more primitive system called the basal ganglia. And this is where habits live. The basal ganglia, your habit center. In the 1990s, MIT neuroscientist Graybiel conducted groundbreaking research on how habits are formed. She studied rats navigating mazes. At first, when the rats were learning the maze, their brains showed intense activity throughout the entire process. They were thinking. But as the rats repeated the maze again and again, something changed. Brain activity dropped dramatically, except for two small bursts, one at the beginning of the maze, one at the end. The middle became almost silent. Graybiel called this phenomenon chunking. The brain had turned a complex sequence of actions into a single automatic routine. Instead of thinking through each step, the brain grouped it into one chunk. This is exactly what happens when you tie your shoes, type on a keyboard, or unlock your phone. Your brain compresses behavior. It automates it. It turns effort into reflex. And once a behavior becomes chunked inside the basal ganglia, it becomes very hard to erase. The habit loop: cue, routine, reward. Now let's talk about the structure of a habit. Researchers have identified a three-part loop that drives nearly every habit: cue, routine, reward. This framework was popularized by Charles Duhigg, but it is rooted in decades of behavioral psychology research. Let's break it down. The cue. The cue is the trigger. It could be a time of day, a location, an emotional state, a specific person, or even boredom. Your brain constantly scans your environment for patterns. When it detects a familiar cue, it activates the stored routine. The routine. The routine is the behavior itself: scrolling, smoking, eating, exercising, procrastinating. This is the action your brain has chunked. The reward. The reward is what teaches your brain whether to remember this loop for the future. And this is where dopamine enters the story. Dopamine, the teacher chemical. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. It is not. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz conducted experiments with monkeys that changed how we understand motivation. He discovered that dopamine spikes not when we receive a reward, but when we expect one. At first, the monkeys received juice randomly, and dopamine spiked when the juice arrived. But after a pattern was introduced, a light flashing before the juice, dopamine shifted. It spiked when the light appeared, not when the juice arrived. The brain had learned the prediction. This is critical. Your brain releases dopamine when it detects a cue that predicts a reward. That dopamine spike motivates you to perform the routine. This is why your phone notification feels powerful. It is not the message itself. It is the anticipation. Your brain has learned that notification equals potential reward, and dopamine pushes you to check it. Over time, the cue alone becomes irresistible. Why bad habits feel stronger? If habits are just loops, why do bad ones feel stronger? The answer lies in immediacy. The brain evolved for survival, not long-term planning. B.F. Skinner, the famous behavioral psychologist, showed through operant conditioning experiments that behaviors followed by immediate rewards are reinforced much more strongly than behaviors with delayed rewards. Fast food gives instant pleasure. Exercise gives delayed benefits. Scrolling gives instant stimulation. Reading gives long-term growth. Your brain is wired to favor immediate dopamine spikes, and modern technology has mastered this system. Social media platforms are engineered around variable rewards, the same reinforcement pattern used in slot machines. Sometimes you get a like, sometimes you do not. That unpredictability creates even stronger dopamine engagement. The brain becomes hooked on the possibility, and once that loop is encoded in the basal ganglia, it becomes automatic. How long does it take to form a habit? There is a myth that habits take 21 days to form. That idea came from plastic surgeon Maxwell Maltz in the 1960s, who observed it took patients about 21 days to adjust to physical changes. But that was never a scientific rule. In 2009, researcher Philippa Lally at University College London conducted a study tracking people forming new habits. She found that, on average, it took 66 days for a behavior to become automatic, but the range varied from 18 days to 254 days. The key variable was repetition. Consistency, not intensity, builds habits. Your brain strengthens neural pathways through repetition. This principle was described by psychologist Donald Hebb in 1949. Neurons that fire together wire together. Each time you repeat a behavior, the neural circuit becomes stronger, like carving a path through grass. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. The emotional side of habits. Habits are not just mechanical loops, they are deeply emotional. Many habits form as coping mechanisms. Stress triggers smoking, loneliness triggers scrolling, anxiety triggers overeating. Your brain learns that certain behaviors reduce discomfort. Psychiatrist Judson Brewer has studied how cravings form. He explains that habits are reinforced when the brain learns a behavior provides relief. The brain updates its value system based on perceived reward. If scrolling reduces boredom, the brain records that as valuable. But here is the catch. The brain does not evaluate long-term consequences. It only registers short-term relief. That is why breaking habits feels like emotional withdrawal. You are not just stopping a behavior, you are disrupting a learned comfort system. Can you delete a habit? Here is something fascinating. You cannot completely erase a habit. And Graybiel's research suggests that once a habit circuit is formed in the basal ganglia, it never fully disappears, but it can be overridden. This is why relapse is common. The old pathway still exists. The key to change is not deletion, it is replacement. When you keep the same cue and reward, but swap the routine, you rewire the loop. For example, cue, stress. Old routine, smoking. Reward, relief. New routine, deep breathing or walking. Reward, relief. Over time, if the new routine consistently delivers relief, the brain updates its preference. But this requires awareness, because habits operate below consciousness. The role of the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is your rational brain. It allows planning, self-control, and long-term thinking. But here is the problem. It tires easily. Decision fatigue is real. When you are exhausted, stressed, or overwhelmed, the brain defaults to habits. That is why you make worse decisions late at night. Your willpower system is offline. Your habit system takes over. Wendy Wood, a leading habit researcher at USC, found that people do not rely on self-control to maintain habits. They rely on environment design, because habits are cue-driven. Change the cue, change the behavior. If you want to eat healthier, do not rely on willpower. Change what is in your kitchen. If you want to scroll less, move your phone out of reach. Environment shapes behavior more than motivation. Identity and habits. There is one more powerful layer: identity. When a behavior becomes tied to your identity, it strengthens dramatically. If you say, "I am trying to run," that is temporary. If you say, "I am a runner," that becomes self-consistent. Your brain seeks identity coherence. It wants your actions and self-image aligned. This is supported by cognitive dissonance theory, introduced by Leon Festinger. When behavior and identity clash, discomfort arises. So the brain adjusts one to match the other. This is why small wins matter. Each repetition casts a vote for the type of person you believe you are. Habits are not just actions.
They are identity sculptors. Right now, inside your brain, millions of neural circuits are firing. Some are building you, some are limiting you. Every habit you repeat is carving your future. The beautiful part? Your brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity never stops. You are not trapped by your past routines, but you must understand them. You must see the cue. Interrupt the loop, design your environment, repeat the new behavior, attach it to your identity. Because habits are not destiny. They are design. And the moment you understand how they work, you stop being controlled and you start creating. So ask yourself tonight, what habits are shaping my life without my permission? And what new ones will I start building tomorrow? This is not just psychology. This is power. And this is MindCraft Lab.